In honor of the 25th anniversary of Metro Cable Network, we're doing a series of community events this year, and I'm with Karen Sontag-Sattel, and we're on the Mississippi River. Tell us a little bit about this river overlook that we're sitting on.
Well, about 20 years ago, our neighborhood group realized that this park, B.F. Nelson Park, should be developed into the park system. We have this wonderful river, and we all feel so fortunate to live near it.
And the neighborhood group was St. Anthony West?
West, yes. And luckily, we have people that love nature, and they supported the idea of the overlook. And we raised enough money to build it, and the park system was supportive of us, thank goodness. And here we are. It looks like it's in the middle of paradise, and we're just right in the middle of the city on the wonderful Mississippi River. So when Michael first told me that we were going to try to get an overlook on the river, I came down here and I sat in every place I could to see the views and feel the wind and decide which was the best place to put it.
And Karen, look at what's here right next to us.
Oh, look at that. Well,
wonderful canoeists.
It's a good place to canoe and to kayak because the water isn't quite so fast here, and they have some real beautiful landscaping to go by and no buildings to speak of that they can see. So after I sat in this particular spot, I went back to Michael and I said, I think we've got the spot. And so the park board agreed and built this, and there are even holes for fishing rods. In fact, the other day I saw 2 or 3 people fishing from here. So, and we come down and picnic. It is a beautiful park, and it will only get better all the time as more people use it.
And kind of the moral of the story is to have a lot of patience as a community group, that it takes, if they have a good idea, it takes a long time to do.
You just have to believe in it and keep raising money and talk to people about it. And when you do, people want the park system to be popular and used. And by doing so and building something like this, you get many more people down here. And yet it's quiet enough and safe enough for anybody to come down and have a picnic, walk along the paths, go to many places along the river, and I think that's going to be extended across Plymouth too. Pretty soon.
I believe that what we've done here in our neighborhood is inspiration for the whole upper river.
Yeah, so we love it. We've been here for 26 years, and our neighborhood group has always been very active and interested in what's happening along the river. And I'm so pleased to have been a part of that and a part of this beautiful system right here.
First of all, I want to introduce a few other people who are here today. Some of them will be speaking, and others of them will just be here in the crowd. You can wave at them. So we have Representative Diane Loeffler here today, and Senator Terry Dietzig. We also have City Councilwoman Diane Hofstad, and some of my compatriots from the Park Board. We have Commissioner Scott Vreeland and Commissioner Bob Fine, is hiding out over there in the audience pretending he's not a commissioner. And many other people, and State Senator Linda Higgins is here as well with her puppies. We also would like to thank everybody in the neighborhood organization in St. Anthony West who has made it their almost lives' work to make sure that this park becomes a centerpiece for the city of Minneapolis along our riverfront. It's been great to have you work so hard to make sure that all of this becomes something that's attractive for all the citizens of Minneapolis to use. And also I'd like to say I thank them so much for being the group that went out of their way to help us get legacy funds and to raise tons of money on their own to move the Pioneer statue, which used to be right across the street, here to being a beautiful centerpiece of the park. I mean, it's a picture postcard if you go over there and stand and look at the statue and downtown in the background. It couldn't be a nicer centerpiece. As you may have noticed, we've also added a lovely little swift tower down there, so hopefully the birds will nest and we'll have less mosquitoes at this park than the rest of the state. And in the future, we're hoping we get a grant that comes through, and this park will be one of the first to have electric car charging stations. So keep your fingers crossed that the grant goes through. So without further ado, I'd like to invite State Representative Diane Loeffler to come up. And again, thank you so much for being the ones that helped get us legacy funding to make this happen.
Well, thank you, Liz, and thank you all for coming out here. And you know, I'm not going to make this a political event, but you know, this is a time when people are talking about what is the role of government and does government work? And I think this park is a beautiful example of the kind of partnerships that we need to foster and that we are doing regularly. This park wouldn't have happened if the city of Minneapolis hadn't long ago had the vision of taking an old construction dump and other industrial brownfields and seeing the possibility of reclaiming an entrance point to our beautiful mighty Mississippi. But then it took the park board to step up and claim that land and devote working with the neighborhood in the planning and the first initial ideas, which were pretty humble, but we were just glad to have a green space near the river. And then state funding, voter authorized funding through Legacy, and other local funds raised by the neighborhood were all pooled together so we could have this enhanced improvement to this park and start to make it the gateway to the rest of the Mississippi as we propose to redevelopment. And the one thing that I do think you need to know is that we're all continuing to work going into the future to make this even more accessible. We are part of the riverfront planning that was initiated by the park board, and we thank them so much for that, to try and figure out how we can make the mighty Mississippi be mighty in both north and northeast Minneapolis. I just want to say thank you so much for coming out today.
Well, thank you again, Representative Loeffler. For many of you who've been part of this neighborhood for ages, I know that one of the most exciting things is probably one of the things that most people take for granted. And for all of you who haven't known this before, much of this sidewalk that went here and connected this area to downtown Minneapolis did not exist. It stopped about there. And so you'd come and you'd walk, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I'm out in the street. So now we have a connected sidewalk. We have it lit so it's safe. We get the neighbors out here walking. We get bikers out here. This is the kind of activity that keeps the neighborhood safe, keeps our park safe, and keeps everybody fit and trim. So apparently I haven't been out walking enough. So I'll let you know. Without further ado, I'll bring up our state senator, Gary Dietzick.
Hi, thank you all for inviting me. I'll just continue on what Representative Loeffler and Commissioner Walensky said, where this was really a joint partnership. I was not at the state when a lot of this work was going on, but I was in the neighborhood, and so I thank all of you for working so hard to do this. But I'll continue that on because this was actually Hennepin County, and I was on the Hennepin County side when a lot of this was going on. Did a lot. I know Michael Rainville and others in the neighborhood, when we finally, after many, many years, did the Marshall Avenue Bridge, which took a long time. They had the foresight to go and think and say, well, let's save and reuse some of that brickwork. And so we actually saved that, and you will see that along there, and there's a bunch more that Commissioner Walensky said they'll be placing around, hopefully with art in the park in the future.
Thank you all for participating. Thank you for working hard to make this happen, and here's to keeping it going and doing much more in the future. Thank you all for coming today.